right. Are they coming in?
I'm bringing them in now.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to BLAW Live. Good to have you with us.
Evening.
Good evening. Good to have you here. BLAW Live is about to begin. Glad you arrived. Hopefully you had a great day today. Welcome to BLAW Live, everybody. Welcome. Share with somebody. Tell them that we're on. We're ready to go. Our guest is here. We are on the air. All right. Got a couple of people want to get into the meeting. They're knocking on the door. Knock, knock. Good day, everybody. Good day. All right. Folks are coming in. Good to have you. And as people are coming in, I'm going to ask you to open up the chat box and let us know that you're here. All right, great. So if you can hear me, everybody, good evening. Welcome to BLAW Live. This is Bishop Larry Ward. Glad you're here. If you can hear me, just put your name, not put your name, but you just put a Y in the chat box if you can hear me. Just want to make sure we're working good. Just toss your name in the chat, toss your name or put a Y in the chat box. That'd be great. Just want to make sure it's working so that as you ask questions, we can make sure that we can see if you're on, everything was working. Good to have you with us. It's 8:33 and it's good to have you here with us today. Well, all right, this is Bishop Larry Ward and this is BLAW Live and it's good to have you with us tonight. Reason why I do the BLAW Lives is because simply this, it's really a ministry that I believe is so important to encourage people to move forward. Specifically as we are in this season, in this moment in the body of Christ, that I want to bring some information to you that will really encourage you, but also to help you and give you some knowledge on particular subject matter that I feel very passionate about. And so we've been discussing in many different BLAW Lives, things concerning mental health. We had last week All Flavors. We did a space on this divine movements of God in our lives and making sure we understand that's a reset time. And so if you've been with us kind of tracking, we've been just talking about some really great and helpful things to help us in our lives. And tonight, we're going to hear from a special guest tonight, Jonathan Pierre. And Jonathan is a member of our church, Abundant Life Church in Cambridge, and so glad to have him here. He's a native of Cambridge. He attended BC High. He earned his BA in economics from Boston College. So he's actually a double eagle, as they call it. He loves to really get involved in helping people in this area of finance and participating in different areas of ministry in our youth and working at the church in various capacities. And so tonight, our heartthrob is to really talk about what's happening in the future with regards to finance. We had Jacqueline Cooper on, and she talked about the CARE program, and getting our checks from the government, and she talked about that. But tonight we want to really talk about what can we do and what's happening on the front with regards to our finances. What do we have to look forward to? And so Jonathan's been really working in that area. So we want to hear from him. So I want you to welcome Jonathan Pierre to BLAW Live. Hi, Jonathan, how are you?
How are you, Bishop?
I'm doing well. So you are actually working in a number of areas with regards to finances in the future and how we deal with our personal finances and making sure that we are do the best we can with our money. So how did you even get into this area? How did you get into this area? I know you're double eagle and you studied economics, but how did you really kind of focus down? Because economics is kind of like a big, huge thing. So how did you get into that area?
Well, I think, and it's funny, I like always like to tell people like why I do what I do before I actually tell them like how I do what I do, because I think it's so important that people understand like where you come from and why you're doing what you're doing. But I think it kind of just starts with my background. As I said, as you said, introduced me. I was raised in Cambridge. Um, I know Boston people feel some type of way, so I'm not going to claim Boston, but I live in Cambridge. I'm from Cambridge originally, but and my mom worked at Beth Israel for like over 30 years in housekeeping.
Mm.
Um and as you can imagine, like raising myself and my brother, and I have an older sister that passed away, like on her salary was never like a picnic. So it was like always really like driven about like the areas of personal finance and making sure I was really empowered in this. And initially out of college, like I did kind of corporate financial planning and consulting. And I was just kind of like, I felt like I was just like kind of cashing a check and not really making an impact. I knew I was like capable of a lot more. And I've been blessed in doing this. I've helped a lot of people, and I'm not. I'm making an impact, and I'm seeing like the fruits of it, not just for myself, but like tangibly, like how it's been impacting people. And it's nice to have like I've been doing it long enough now that I'm getting testimonies, and we've seen people kind of progress. So we know what everything that we're doing is making an impact on people, a positive impact.
That's great. So as you're really uh, excited about this whole area of helping people with their finances, um, I'm interested in knowing, and what's really happening now that we had COVID. We're in the midst of COVID-19, and how are people really thinking about their finances now? And I know we went through a recession in 2008, and that was a big deal. But now that we have 33 million people um, out of work, and we're trying to get the economy started, and people are rushing again, trying to get things going. What's happening on the personal finances as relates to what you're saying?
I mean, I think it's clearly like a ever evolving like landscape. And if I like sit up here and kind of tell you I know exactly what's gonna happen, I'd be lying to you. And if anyone like tells you they really know what's gonna happen, I think they'd be lying. I think that it's important that everyone kind of gets prepared and kind of make some changes to their life if they need be. I don't know how you could have possibly not been making changes with where we are, but things are changing, and I think people are starting to realize that nothing is kind of guaranteed. Um, and obviously, things are opening back up, but across the country. But is that going to be for how long is that going to last? Is it going to be through the summer? Is it going to be a couple months? Is it going to last all the way till the winter? Who knows? There is a flurry of different ways this could go, and they all could have, um, potentially very difficult impacts on people. And I think the biggest piece with everything happening with COVID is that you don't have to like ever get sick or pass away or have somebody that pass away to be like severely impacted. Life is changing as we know it very quickly. And I think it's best that like we can control what we can control and do our best to like get ready for it. because I mean, anyone who knows me, I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic. So I think I am very honest about the trauma and hardship that people are experiencing. But I also think it's if I would be I wouldn't be who I am if I wasn't like also honest about the opportunity that it's presenting to people financially. Whether regardless of where you are.
Great. So what specifically kind of like is happening? I know that you have a number of clients and you work, of course you can't divulge about your clients, but what's happening in terms of what are they concerned about now? What do you offer your clients to really help them to move forward in their financial future?
Well, yeah, I think it is like, I mean, people are concerned with like all different kinds of things. And I work with, as you mentioned, all different kinds of people. And it's been amazing, like the people that have lost jobs and also the people that haven't lost jobs. Like some of my clients that have had the riskiest jobs, I feel like they're fine. And I've had physicians laid off and furloughed and um, worker, like all different. I work with, like I said, like I work with all different kinds of people. So it was kind of that's been interesting to me. And I think kind of like moving forward, like what everyone is talking about right now is a couple different things. Like where's my wealth? Where's my wealth? And then do I actually have access to it? Um, Another piece is did the decisions that I was making before, did it put me in a good position to kind of plan for this? Like I would say the best thing that I've heard so far during this is these past like 2 months. And I'm kind of losing the track of the days, but I think it's been like 2 months. Um, is the fact that how we do planning, people have said to me, like, obviously, for like we're not planning for global pandemics because of our philosophy and approach to planning. People have been in a good position to kind of ride this out and deal with the vicissitudes that this is presented to a lot of different people. Because life is about planning our approach is about planning for expected things, but also planning for unexpected things. And that could be, that could be popping a tire on your car on a regular spring day. Um, or it could be like you find out you're having another child, or it could be like you find out the house of your dreams um, unexpectedly comes out onto the market. Life is kind of all about opportunities, but like what you do beforehand is actually going to prepare you to like, are you going to be able to take advantage of some of those opportunities, or are they going to pass you by?
So what practically do you help people do when it comes to looking at their financial future and organizing? Because you're dealing with personal financial planning. So what do you actually do for a person if they came into your office and said, hey, I really need some help in this thing, and I really don't know how to go about it? What steps would you kind of help them think through?
Yeah, I think first off is um, um, first off, I think that it's important to, and I actually could kind of walk you through. Like I have a little visual to show people. I know everybody kind of learns differently. So I don't know if I could actually share my screen. Um, just let me know if that's coming through on everybody's end.
I see it.
Yeah, we can see it on this end.
Yeah, so this is kind of our version of a balance sheet, which is a little different, Bishop. Um, and as you can see, like most people know, a traditional balance sheet is assets minus liabilities equals net worth. Um, and people kind of really focus on the assets and liabilities. Our balance sheet's a little bit different in the sense that it's integrating two kind of critical components that we feel is often missing. One is your cash flow, the other is your protection. And this is kind of like they've constructed it in a way that it's kind of it's proprietary, in the sense that it kind of looks like your financial house. And really the cash flow is your foundation. It's everything that you build upon. Like most people don't realize that their greatest financial asset usually is their income, unless like you're gonna inherit a whole bunch of money or something or come into money. Um, People's most valuable financial asset is their ability to kind of get up and go to work each and every day. And people are kind of realizing that. And I know everybody, there's a lot of different people, all age ranges on the call, and a lot of people, different people will watch this back. But like, I just want people to kind of do like some quick math in their head about just like, think about their earnings and what age you are. Even this is even true for like people who are close to retirement and like in their early 50s. Let's just say you're 50 years old and you're planning on retiring around age 70. um, that's still $1 million. That's still $1 million that you're going to bring in. And that's if you never get another raise, you're going to stay flat for the next 20 years. And what most people don't realize is that they are millionaires like over their working lifetime. um and they really need to like have that mindset and think of it. Most people don't approach it that way. And even if you've just been making like $50 million, 50 million, we'd all love to be making 50 million, but even if you're just making $50,000 a year, like over the course of your working lifetime, like you're gonna earn well over $1 million. Like obviously you don't get to keep all of it, because we have a good friend called taxes in this country, state and federal, in most places. And so obviously you don't get to keep it, but like helping people kind of look at all the different parts of their finances, holistically, because it's not really about one particular area. It's about like how all of these areas are working in conjunction with each other. Like too often, and stop me if if you have any questions, but like too often people kind of make just different decisions in these areas without any like connectivity or coordination. Decisions have been made whether on products and services in silos, and the choices and decisions that people are making are not congruent, with where they actually want to go. And I say this all the time. Most often I meet people and they are like truly just like ignorant. And the truest definition of the word, like literally they do not know. They do not know any better and kind of follow just like mass advice or get advice from family members, friends, or whatever. And um, I'm not saying that advice is bad. But at the same time, like there's usually an opportunity for improvement. And I mean, I'm not a big fan of mass advice because it's not really taking into context what like people's given circumstances and situations are. And all the planning is kind of determined, and recommendations is determined based on like somebody's trying to go, what's important to them, what they want to accomplish, and kind of making people really understand that, really like kind of our philosophy and like how we do things is kind of, I'm just gonna lay it out really quickly. Um, is kind of one, taking a look at like your protection, like all your different insurances and legal documents in your world. Um, Making sure that like we fortify and solidify your protection, because your protection, as we go back to this picture, this is just a picture of what the screen was before. But like as I mentioned, the structure, your balance sheet, you should really think of it as like a financial house. In your protection, the different insurances and legal documents that you have in your world are the roof over your financial house.
That's,
So
that's great. When you talk about the protection side of it and your assets and liabilities, I was just going to ask you about that whole protection side. So that's the roof of your house. That's kind of like putting on so that when the rain comes and the wind comes and everything else comes, you'll have that. So that protection is what? Just insurances? Is that all there is? Is that what
it's
else?
insurances, it's legal documents, like there's all different from a protection standpoint. And I'm gonna bounce around because I do this all the time, but like these are the kind of 13 point or 12 points of protection that most people, if you do not have all of them, you have some of them. And if you don't own a home, it's not homeowners insurance, it's renters insurance. Um, from like I use this example, and the reason why we start with protection first is like I kind of went through that exercise earlier, but like most people, like their future is like way brighter for them than their present moment. And so making sure that people kind of under like a broad set of circumstances bring in their wealth, like people spend a long time like building up wealth and building up assets. And some people may be like, what wealth? But like whatever you have is wealth. It's just kind of like how you manage it, but like people spend a long time like trying to build up their balance sheet. um and like all it takes is one thing happening in one of these areas, and it could like seriously erode like all the work that you've done and built up if you don't have like the proper protection in like one of these areas. It could kind of really have a disastrous impact onto your balance sheet.
So when it comes to the whole current view as you're showing us here, the red is that really the hot things that got to be done, and the moderate things are kind of not so kind of like warm things, and the other thing is like okay, yeah, medical insurance. What is all the green and yellow, gold, red? What
Yeah.
how
So
how does
the
that work?
the system actually literally defaults to this. So this is like everyone, and this is kind of the standard that kind of gets popped out. If you a warning, it's just kind of like stoplights. Like everyone knows you got to stop at a red light, and that's a warning. That's like not having anything. So if you have a warning, if you're at a red light in one of these areas, that's a stop and that's a pause. A yellow light is just like moderate. You have something. Um, you have something, but it may not work exactly how you want it to work. Um, or like it doesn't cover you for like all that you could possibly be covered for. And like optimal is like as close to as possible to like being indemnified and like full replacement. Like, God forbid, like I know you did some work on your house like last year. Like, if God forbid something happened to your house, like you and Rev would expect back like an entire house, not just like half a house. Um, and the same thing when it goes to your car, and kind of all these different areas, right? Like people fully expect and would want like full replacement and indemnification, but like most often what we see is like people are kind of like meandering somewhere in the middle or like nowhere close. So like my goal, and I hope everyone at some point in time, like, and obviously it doesn't happen overnight, is like that people get to kind of every get to green on the screen, but like understanding that like progress is better than perfection. So that doesn't happen overnight.
Great. So those of you who are out there, if you have questions, you can just toss in the chat box. So we want to make sure that you get a chance to ask any questions that you may have, or uh, things that you might heard that you don't necessarily understand fully. And so as Jonathan and I are talking, just toss your questions up there about your thoughts about financial planning. And now when it comes to this whole idea of putting together a plan, is there something specific that you would tell them at what stage of their life where they're at? Let's say they're just starting their jobs, they're in their 20s and they just come out of college, versus someone who's at the place where maybe they're going to retire and planning to retire in another, 10 years or 5 years. What stages do we plot along and kind of move along? What might be priorities? That's a really, really great question. So
Yeah, I would say like regardless of like where you are, there is a need for planning. Absolutely. Like whether you're just starting out, or like you're very close to retirement. Like, and obviously if you're like just starting out, because I think like the sooner you have better habits and better sound practices, like it just makes your whole life a lot easier. And it kind of like honestly, like it changes, like completely changes the trajectory of your life, financially, of course. And if somebody who I do a lot of work with people that are close to retirement age, it's a whole different conversation where they don't really have time to kind of like make up for like what they did or did not do. So that conversation turns into, if like somebody hasn't really done all that they should do to get prepared, like let's really like try to maximize the time ahead, to kind of best position you to kind of like enjoy the most amount of money possible, in your retirement, so that like you don't have to end up working longer than you want, but kind of helping people have like be in a good position and ready to kind of decide and make that move whenever ready. But like I think the sooner you start, I think that's like one of the biggest like myths and lies people tell each other, like either I'm like too young to think about this stuff, or like I don't have enough money. One of the reasons why I'm like at my firm is because like our planning philosophy, like as I was looking to transition, like I know a lot of people that are like my mother. And my mom only made $30,000 like her last year of working. Like she worked at Beth Israel like I think 34 years, well over 30 years. She only made over $30,000 one time. And that was her last year. But like
well,
um but at the same time, like I know like if she had like sat down with like somebody like me who approached things like me, like her world would have been like completely different. And that was something that was important to me as I like transition. Like I never wanted to be in a position where like I had to like turn people away. And so like I said, I work with people that are just like my mom. Like I have like a handful of clients that are janitors. They make a little more than my mom because like cost of living has gone up and they're making more money. But like I have clients that make like 40,000, and then I also have work with clients that like make millions of dollars. Like I still take them through the same foundational planning philosophy. Like obviously the scope of my work is a little more extensive and different, with somebody who's making a lot more money. Um, but I think it's all about like your question, like going back to it, it's all about like progress. It's not about perfection. Like, and everyone has like I've been doing this for a little while. Like, I haven't met somebody that was like completely like all set, didn't have to do anything. There's always an opportunity for like progress. Like, you don't have to get things perfect, but like, do you have an opportunity to like progress? I think that's important.
that's great. Got a couple of questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
It says, so the one question is that on the, I guess you're on your other slide, it says, so the lights or the colors, are there levels of importance, or are the levels of coverage? That was a question. Is it importance or is it coverage?
So like instantly, if you have something, like you're gonna be in the yellow, because you have something. If you don't have anything, you're gonna be in the red. Um, but like I said, it's kind of gets to the concept of like full replacement. That's like the purpose of like that's really what the purpose of like protection is. Like if something happened to your roof, like you wouldn't like be happy with like half of a roof or half of a car, half of a house, like half of a paycheck if you got sick or injured. Um, if you died, like your family wouldn't be happy with like half of your salary, like all of these different things. Like if you're not in a position to make financial decisions for yourself, like you wouldn't be okay with like you wouldn't be okay with like no one making decisions on your behalf.
Okay.
Also,
So is the list prioritized here? That's another question. Is the list prioritized? So your auto insurance, how, you know, and you go down the list, is it prioritized?
Uh,
Uh,
obviously, it's different. Like, not everyone has a car. Not everyone has homeowners. Like, these are just like all the protection standpoints. And some are applicable to people now. Some will be in the future. But like, really, it's like all these. All of these are applicable to everyone except a buy-sell agreement. That's just if you like own a business, and that would a buy-sell agreement would dictate like how it's transferred upon like selling like your portion of the business. So that's not applicable to everyone. But aside from that, it's all applicable.
okay, so if I'm looking at this, and this is John Doe, okay, this is John Doe. How is John Doe standing up against his when it comes to his future with the reds and the yellows and one green? What would you do for that person?
Well, yeah, I think that kind of goes back to I think it kind of goes back to this conversation, right? Like, obviously, I've talked a lot about protection, but like our second step is making sure that people are great savers, um, saving 15 to 20% of their income. That's the place that we like to get people to, like national average of a working American. Like, I don't know if most people realize this, but most of the country lives paycheck to paycheck. And I've seen it and I've had experiences. Whether you're making like $1 million a year or you're making $50,000 a year, I've seen both scenarios with people living paycheck to paycheck. So the place that we like to get, we want to help people over time get to that 15 to 20% saver. Most people are like paycheck to paycheck or like around like 4 to 5%. That's our second step. Our third step is making sure that people build an adequate life events fund. And some people like use the term emergency fund. I don't really like that term because emergencies like stuff is going to happen. It's not really emergency. We just don't know like what it is. You need to have money that's liquid and readily available to deal with kind of those things. um Money that's readily available, and like I think this time is more so than ever, people are kind of like realizing it, like if everything goes wrong, like what's my plan? Because like it's really about helping people create plans that work not just under like a narrow set of set of circumstances, but like a broad set of circumstances. And kind of like, I know it's about to be election season, and we see on those polls like margin for error. Like people should be living a life with margin for error. And then the last strategy, it says living debt free, but like coming up with a strategy to eliminate any like high interest and toxic debt. Like debt could be leveraged, so not all debt is bad. But like things like high interest credit cards, like stuff like that, that's stuff that like inhibits your ability. And I kind of want people to think of themselves and adopt a mindset that they are like CEOs of their family's institution. Everybody on this call, everyone who will listen to this on YouTube is like a CEO of their family. And if you're married, you're a co-CEO. And you are $1 million institution. So like when you decide to like buy savings, you pay yourself first. Because like conventional wisdom is to like, let's try to pay this debt off as fast as possible. If you do that, like when the next life event happens, like you don't have the money that's kind of readily available to deal with life. And like I said, that could be this pandemic, that could be losing a job, that could be you having a baby, you buying a house, whatever. um and so kind of helping people adopt the mindset that they should really like fund their $1 million institution before they're like overpaying and trying to eliminate and eradicate debt as fast as possible. I'm not saying don't pay your debt. Please pay like your debt, but like if your debt is so overwhelming that's inhibiting your ability to save. Like pay the minimums for a while to kind of build up that liquidity. This life events fund is, we like to like initially, like understanding it's not feasible for everyone, like 3 to 6 months to start off, of living expenses and income. Eventually, like where we want you to get to is a year. And this is all about kind of creating like security, confidence, and clarity, all the moving parts of people's finances, and like having optimal financial balance. Because like what you do or do not do in one particular area has the ability to impact another area. Like we don't know if it will, but it has the ability to. Like if you have too much credit card debt and you can't save, that's directly impacting. If you don't have the right protection, and you get sued, that drops a huge liability onto your balance sheet. Um, if the house in your mortgage is like representing too much of your income, that inhibits your ability to build up that liquidity in life events fund. So like I could go through 1,000 scenarios, but like what you do in one of the domains, has the ability to impact another area. So it's really about, being intentional about like all the different moving parts of your finances, and kind of looking at your entire world. It's not just about like one particular area.
Great, thank you. Here's some couple questions that are coming through on the chat box. Question is, they're 23 years old, and they just graduated, part-time job, and they have moderate amount of student loan debt. How do they start preparing themselves to become financially secure in the future? They're at that just beginning.
Well, yeah, I mean, first thing off is like obviously not working full time yet. Like just kind of build the building blocks. Like I understand like you're not gonna like go out and like get protection, but like can you start with this? Like, can you like pay yourself first? Like every single time you get a paycheck, can you put aside like, can you start to put aside something and pay yourself first? And can you kind of get in the habit of that? Like, obviously we should be paying our tithes and whatnot. But like, can we have the mindset of like, okay, like I'm gonna create some structure and make sure like we put this away like right off the bat, and kind of like train yourself to like live off less, um, and kind of like really build the foundational like habits that will like produce like the outcomes. Because like I understand like at 23 years old, like you might not be thinking about like age 70, um, and but like kind of like getting in the habit of paying yourself first. Like definitely don't go crazy on like paying down the student loans, because like I mean obviously student loans vary, but like to me student loans represent like a good kind of debt, because like the student loans is what enabled you, to get the education that you got. And when you go out and get a job in whatever field that you're in, you're going to get your income is your return on investment. So like don't rush it to like pay it off as fast as possible. Like build up kind of like your war chest and start paying yourself first.
It's good. How about this question where people are trying to figure out, well, what makes a good and a competent financial planner? As we're kind of thinking about where we want to go financially, you hear all kinds of stories of Ponzi schemes and funds that just totally are siphoning off your money and just kind of losing a lot of your resources. So how do you deal with find a reputable financial planner? What things you need to think about to do that?
Yeah, well, I think um it starts off with like trust, like right off the bat. Um, like I always say this, like no one ever does any business with me before they ever trust me. That just does not happen. So you have to be comfortable with somebody. First
But
of
if
all,
I'm comfortable with you, right? And I'm comfortable with you, but I'm not too sure, because I'm sure that there are people out there who were scammed, and they were just nice people.
right.
They they had a lot of knowledge, and because we're at a disadvantage because we don't know terminology, we don't know what things do. So how do we get way through that stuff?
Well, yeah. So I was gonna say you got to trust, but like obviously, like competence, like you got to be really competent. Like I always tell people, and like I have a good personality, and I get along with a lot of different types of people, but like don't ever work with me because like you just like me. Like I need to be like really good at like what I do. Um, and I need to be really good at what I do and kind of working in alignment like with where you want to go, because like your goals, your objectives, your priorities are always the starting point of like any planning work that you do with somebody. And additionally, like I do work with like I mean, I'm only 27, so like and I've the majority of my clients are like 40s, 50s. Like I work with a lot of people who already have advisors. Um you should work with somebody that is not afraid to like defend their work. That's the thing, like I love our planning. By the way, I didn't even say this, but this is Living Balance Sheet, our like planning and organizational planning software. Like this is somebody that this is this tool, all of our clients have access to it. And what's really unique about it is like it has everybody's financial world like all in one place. And so like you have the ability to link your accounts. This instantly like creates accountability. There's nothing like this is obviously it's all zeros right now. But what this like really looks like for another client, like it's all filled out and everything is populated and it auto updates like once a day. It's completely secure and confidential. Like it instantly creates accountability because like people always have all their entire world at like at a finger, at the stroke of a keyboard, or app on their phone. And so like I think like being conscious and being aware, and it's not like good to just like have like blind faith. Like I don't tell people what to do. Like I'd be cautious and wary of like somebody just telling you what to do. Like my job is to like provide people information, and empower them. Their job is to tell me what they want to do. Because it's not like we're not planning for me. We're planning for whoever I'm sitting across from. It's not about my life. Like I took care of myself, like in my family, like my planning is already done. Like what one person like ever decides to do or not do is not going to make or break me. But like it has like it may have like all the impact on their family. So like my job is provide information and kind of partner and coach and educate people to
Yeah.
empower them to like have knowledge in these different areas.
So how does these fee structures work? Because I know that you find somebody that you really want to go with, and then you figure out, okay, wow, their fee structure is something that you didn't understand going into it. How and I know that fees sometimes are not always understood by the consumer. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, I think that's something to be like very like cognizant of. Like I'm not like I'm not anti-fee because I think like if somebody is good at their job, they deserve to be like compensated about it. But like
How much? What would that look like? I mean, was that a percentage? Is that how much you make?
yeah, like
Is that
every so
investment? How does that work?
yeah, so people have autonomy to kind of like do things as they like see fit. So like different advisors and planners like charge different fees. Kind of our firm's philosophy is a little different where um some people in here do charge fees, but for the most part, most people do not charge fees in the sense that like it's important to like build that trust, deliver some value with people. And the way that like we get compensated by people is if kind of people ever decide to implement any of these like financial products and strategies, like the institutions will like compensate us like directly. And then like I say in really the kind of most important way that we get compensated, like, or myself, I should say, is the fact that like I like put my all like my time and energy in like helping people to get to like where they want to get to. Like, so like I don't advertise, I don't have time to like market myself. Um, like if you think it's of value, like anyone you like care about personally or you respect professionally, that you deserve, that you think deserves to have like the same experience, that's kind of like how I roll. But like fees is definitely something to be very cognizant of.
Thanks. Another question that came up was asked, when is the right time to jump into the stock market or buy, this new thing called Bitcoins, and, what is all that about? When's the right time to do that?
So sound investment philosophy, never tried to time the market. um, if you try to time the market, like you have to be right twice. Like you have to time when you get in, and you have to also time when you get out. Um, and if there was a science to that, a, a lot of people would be a lot richer than they are. So it's like really, and I know I didn't talk about investing, um, but like really in that kind of cash flow piece, um, people like, I think people like really need to like earn the right to invest. Like it's important that like you're not going backwards before like you try to turbocharge your way forward. Like make sure like you kind of establish like a baseline and then kind of work up. Like as you start doing the right things, like opportunities present themselves. But like don't try to time the market. That's not prudent advice. Like once you get to the point where you've done a good job, like you're protected, you're saving the right way, that's the time to kind of look at the market. And it's not about trying to time it, it's about like consistently like establish like where you're going to do on a consistent, continue to do that, you know regardless of like what, because like we know like it goes down and it goes up.
Yeah.
But like if you're trying to time it, like you may be right, you may not be right. That's it.
So stressed out right now.
Thank you. Then we got to mute. Then we have to mute someone. Well, here's a question about the tool. Tell us, is the tool free? Is the tool available? Is the tool, something that we could use without any kind of signing up for subscription services? Because you know how things happen like that. You kind of sign up, said, "Oh, this is a free tool," but you didn't realize you signed up for a subscription of some sort that you're going to be asked to kind of let down a roll to pay for something that you really never intended on paying for. So when it comes to this tool, is it free? No obligation. What do you got to say about that?
Um, so, well, it's always good when like you have like a fellow church member. So I do these talks and seminars or whatever. This is a little different, but I do these pretty frequently. So like Tonya will actually like send out to like afterwards, like whoever wants it. Basically, like people can kind of go in here and assess their financial picture. It's completely secure and confidential. Like I do not have access to it, and you'll never be charged. It's like something complimentary that we're giving the church. And like people can kind of go in and assess like their financial standpoint, like all these different domains. And in there, like afterwards, like if you want to set up a conversation with me or like somebody affiliated with my office, like we could do it. I know like this conversation about finances is not easy. um and like some people it's like generational type stuff, and don't really want to deal with it. But like it's important that like we can't just be like the Bible, like the Bible talks so much about money, like, like almost more than anything, the Bible talks about money. So
Absolutely.
like I always say like, and I use the word like ignorance like all the time, like literally, I hope like this has been like beneficial from people and like at least you've learned like one thing, but like I always say like even if people only like talk to me once, like I provide you with like so much information. Like you can't say you don't know, you can't plead ignorance anymore. Like you have to like do something. I'm not saying like you need to get all on board and like do everything, but like you have to like move forward and try to like move forward and better your life. And kind of like start to look at things differently. Like if you're not going to do it right now when like all of us have more time than ever, when are you going to do it? um and I think like I'm tired of seeing like people like, you know, families struggling, and like people of, and it's not just people of color, but like it's everyone. Like people are like, God did not create us to like to not thrive. You know, and like too many people are like hanging out at like the lowest level of living. um I think everybody needs to step up their game, in like a lot of different areas. Like I said, I talked about in the beginning about like how this time is like there's a lot of trauma, um, but it's also opportunity. You know, and you know, as long as like I think as long my mindset is, and I know you're like this, Bishop, like as long as I'm breathing, there's more. um and I think like I encourage people to challenge people. Like I've been so like grateful and thankful for these like BLAW lives, because like I feel like our church is like stretching and growing, and it's not just like we're helping people win in life. um and it's kind of like what we talked about at towards like the end of last year, that like the integrated the whole life discipleship model, where it's not like we want to help people live life and live life more abundantly. um and we're in our literally our tagline in our church is like where faith and life connect. So like money is a part of your life. It's not the only topic, but like it's a huge part of your life. So like kind of I think it's important. It's free. Like take advantage, and if there's ever a bill for it, like abundant life bill me. This is recorded, but
But thanks, Jonathan. I think it's great. Thank you very much for giving us access to this important tool, and thank you for really building up and bringing up that whole idea of whole life discipleship, because it is part of that. You know, we want to make sure that we are building holistic approach to discipleship, and part of that is your money, part of that is your vocation. I plan on having folks talk more about how to actually get the most out of your work, and as we talked about that with Minister Devin and Betsy Cowan, but also I want to talk some human resource people. I know we have some human resource managers on the line, and we're going to talk about, okay, so what happens if we're underemployed? How do we make the next jump? And now that we're in this whole pandemic, and some jobs are not going to be the same, and they're not going to come back. What do we do with that? Because that also impacts our ability to have earnings. New ways of learning. I know even in this season, I've been learning a lot more about just kind of how to handle Zoom and how to handle different aspects of online platforms, though I was doing online platforms before. But I think now, because we have to learn this, because a lot of workers are going to be doing a lot of virtual work from home. So it is so important that we make this shift, and especially the church, because we're kind of the slowest at making these types of movements, and to really get equipped to really do life the way Jesus wants us to do it, and that's really live it abundantly. So as we're just kind of working through this process, the question is, how do you explain this to our young people? That's probably going to be the last question that we have is, how do you explain this to young people so they'll catch it early? They'll catch it early.
Well, I mean, I think the most important thing to young people is we have to model this. Even like as a 27-year-old, I'm not married, I don't have kids. Um, I think it's so important about like children and young people like look at like what adults are doing. And if we don't have our lives right, like they notice it like right away. And it doesn't have to just be with money, but like I mean, I know like growing up, like I was my mom's like biggest critic in like all of her flaws. Like I knew all of her flaws, like I knew everything that she did wrong. And all adults, like I think like young people like literally like look for flaws in like all the wrong things that people are doing. Because they want to kind of hold us accountable and they're always gonna try to flip it and use the upper hand. But like I think it all starts with one is you can't teach something if you don't know it for yourself. So first step is kind of like if you did not and you weren't taking notes during this time, like thank God it's recorded. Like go back, watch the YouTube. Like there's power in spoken word, but there's longevity in written word. Like go back and take some notes, not just for me, but like for like all of these BLAW lives and anything that you're consuming during this time. And then like start modeling it, and people and young people will like learn a lot more from like you modeling. And then like when you are actually have the confidence um in that you're starting to walk in this, like you're gonna be you're not gonna be like a secret agent. Like you're gonna want all the people that you love and care about to like know about this. You're gonna tell them more. And that's the thing, like I talk with people all the time that like I have no relationship with other than it's just professional. Over time obviously I'm a relational person and my work is very relational. And it gets like into the nitty gritty. This is not an easy talk, like talking about people's finances, like it's very personal. um but but over time, when I have an opportunity to actually like speak with like people I'm connected to, people I love, people I care about, like it's like, yo, it's amazing to me. So because like having it's not just about like having impact on like people I don't know. Like I think, especially as a church, like amazing time for the church and an opportunity in a lot of different areas to like reach people and do things a whole lot differently and touch more lives and have such a bigger kingdom impact. But like it starts with us, and like we got to look in the mirror and like start to do things for ourselves.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate you taking us through this whole just kind of concept and thinking about laying a foundation for our finances in the future. And thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this BLAW Live this evening. And as we bring forth more discussions and ideas and concepts that really help us, thank you for joining us. Tell somebody as well to kind of join in with us on Tuesday nights at 8:30 and be a part of these wonderful discussions. So again, thank you, Jonathan, for coming on. This is not going to be the last time being with us, because we definitely are going to hear some more about this whole idea of financial planning. So with that in mind, just going to bless you as you go. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord cause his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious unto you, give you his shalom, his peace. We pray that God's blessing and peace will be upon you as you would rest this evening. And may he give you just the strength to even do your work. And may something that has been shared tonight be a blessing to you. And let's begin to use our finances and be responsible and be good stewards of all that God has given to us. So thank you so much. So take care, everyone. And thank you again for joining. God bless. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye, everyone.